let's talk Fury of the Gods. And holy fucking shit, that book. Some people are probably not going to enjoy this book because a lot of it is a lot of battles, but it's a lot of what John Gwynne has been leading up to. It's kind of like you're leading up to the end of Return of the King, and there's going to be massive battles, and there's going to be chapters upon chapters upon chapters of battles from different POVs from the same battle, because it is so big and expansive. And yeah, that's kind of what this book was like for me. Was there anything missing from this book? No. Was it worth the wait of 2 years? Entirely yes. I'm going to talk about characters, and the one that really leaps to mind is Elvar. I started Shadow of the Gods thinking she was not going to be a character for me. She was plain. She, not necessarily like John Gwynne didn't write her well, it's just she was just there, right? Her storyline wasn't really shining. She was just fine as a character in, nothing was really happening around her plot points. But then you got to book 2, and then she picked up. But in this book, it was even bigger. She really filled her boots. She took charge of the battle against Liekriva. Character arc, I think, grew the most, and her storyline was probably the most unfulfilled. It's the best way I'm going to say it without spoiling anything. Because the way she listened to other people, how her relationship with Ulfrir was just so well done, and I wanted more of that. She was coming from a place of power, so was Ulfrir, and they both had to work together to find that place of meeting ground of realizing, okay, I have done this in the past. Ulfrir is like a god, and he had to realize, oh, maybe I shouldn't be acting like I'm acting. Having them slowly trust each other while also battling against Liekriva is something I would read at the end of the day. And Elvar dealt with betrayal, and she dealt with it how you would imagine she would deal with it. But there were some decisions that came from that really rose her up in my eyes. And I love her storyline in the idea that her worldview changed because of what some people have said to her, because of the betrayals that she's had, because of the people that she knows, and because of the conflict that is happening with the Liekriva and the Dragonborn and her. It was so well done, just incredible. She is now probably one of my favorite characters, and on a reread, I will probably like her even more. Not going to lie. Then we have Varg. Varg is just Varg. Varg, he's cool. He's Varg, no sense. But the relationships that he goes through with this, learning to, in book 2, he was learning to be more of a brotherhood. But in this book, he really stepped up. He really took his role. He really was there for his vengeance in this book. And I love the relationships that grew between him and the Bloodsworn. That was just, oh. And again, John Gwynne can write those moments really, really well, with people sitting around a fire, learning to grow, love each other. Those small moments are probably my favorite moments in the whole of the book. It was just absolutely fucking incredible, and you just need to go read it. I finished it this morning, so my thoughts are not very well put together, but holy fucking shit. Holy shit. I laughed through this book. I cried. I was so worried about some of the characters. Although one of my characters he got what was coming to him, shall we just say. He definitely got what was coming to him, and we've been waiting for that for all of this. What I loved most about this book was Orca's relationship with her son. How she didn't shelter him, how she trained him, how she was like, this is what it's like, this is what we're going to have to do, and you are not letting them out of her sight. That part of motherhood, having your child taken, getting your child back, instead of smothering the child, you teach him to grow, you teach him weapons craft, and you teach him how to live, but also there is that paranoia there of not really wanting to let him out of her sight. And it's just, her relationship with her son is just amazing. And I loved it. But again, with this one, Orca took the forefront of Shadow of the Gods. And then in Hunger of the Gods, it's more Varg. And then in Fear of the Gods, it's Elvar. Elvar blew me away in this. Elvar was top notch throughout this. The way John Gwynne writes, he gives you point of views from both sides of the story. He shows you the antagonist, he shows you different characters, he shows you every angle he can kind of think of about the conflict that's going through. And you may not like the character's POV, and that's fine. You're not meant to. But he shows you that angle of that story, and he brings those people around from the antagonist side in such a satisfying way that you are left thinking it was worth reading all those chapters just for that. But then he also does with some of those characters who are on the antagonist side, he shows them changing their thought processes. And there was one character who did this, and that certain character did not get the ending he deserved, and it made me sad. It really did make me sad, because I understand the conflict from what he was upon that side, and he wanted change, and this was the only way he thought he could get change, without realizing that actually change had happened from the other side. And it's one of those ones that you read it and you are just like, oh, I love seeing this character have its like complete 180 opinion, and then you are eager to see what's going to happen next, but then nothing else happens with that character, and it is what it is. It's bittersweet is probably the word I'm looking for. Then we have the conflict between the gods, and that was well done. That was incredibly well done. That most of this book, I was on the edge of my seat. Yes, it is battles after battles, but it was all leading up to a point. And you can see people, you can see characters striving to get the vengeance, striving to fulfill their oaths, striving to fight for what they believe in, and showing other characters changing other people's opinions, and having other things come and connect and join together. It was just a ball of fun. It was so fun to read. Every time I picked this book up, I honestly did not want to put it down. Then we came to the last 10% of the book, and I was so scared of reading the last 10% that I put it off for ages. I didn't want to pick it up. I love this book. This book is my top book of the year. The only one who will knock it out is going to be Winter and Truth. But this book was the top book of the year at this moment, as we stand end of September when I'm filming this. Top book of the year. And I wanted to, every time I picked it up, all I wanted to do was read. I didn't want to go to work. I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to eat. I didn't want to sleep. All I wanted to do was read. But then, I was so scared of what was going to happen, how John Gwynne was going to conclude this, how much he was going to break my heart. Every time I would come home from work and I would want to pick up this book and devour it, I'd go, maybe I'll just do this, maybe I'll do this, but maybe I'll clean the house. Anything apart from picking up this book, because I was terrified. And that is a phenomenal writer in John Gwynne to make me that scared, that as much as I'm loving this book, I didn't want to read it because I didn't want it to end. I love the world of this book where it's kind of like Skyrim, kind of like The Witcher, and you have gods, and it's Viking, and it's Norse. It's incredible. It's amazing. I love the living shit out of this world. Would I live in this world? It is terrifying. If somebody taught me how, to be honest, knowing me, I would probably chop my own foot off. But if somebody taught me how to wield an axe, and I was like Skull Splitter, then possibly I would live in this world. The world is just, I love every second about it. I love the lore that is there, and I always feel like with this world we have a glimpse of what it really is, but there's more to it underneath it, and I love it. I absolutely love it. If you were to ask me what was my favorite John Gwynne book, I probably couldn't tell you, because I love all of them. I love his Faith from the Fallen World, the Banished Lands, and I love Vigris. They are just, it's just amazing and incredible. I did cry in this book. I cried a lot. Not like Rhythm of War sobbing my way through the book crying, but I did cry. I cried in an early chapter because, and I cried at the end. And it's one of those books that I'm going to think about for a long time. It's one of those books that I think I am going to be rereading a lot of the time. And now, having read the final installment, I would be very curious to see what I would think of the earlier books, now knowing what it's leading up to. It was a perfect conclusion, and I am going to touch a little bit on John Gwynne's daughter Harriet, because I cannot imagine losing somebody like that and writing a book and continuing on. And it's the acknowledgments did have me in tears. I never met Harriet, but she sounded lovely, and you will never see this, John Gwynne, but a loss like that you will never get over. Harriet sounded lovely, and to write a book like this after suffering such a loss is a massive feat. And John Gwynne still did it. He did it. He stuck the landing, and it was worth the wait. It was definitely worth the wait after everything he went through to get to this last installment. And you still made me cry. You still made me laugh. There is not one bad thing I could say about this book. Realistically, I loved every second of it. Some people might not like all the battles in this book, but if you're not a battle person, I still recommend you try it, because John Gwynne can write battles so well, expertly well. And it's not it's not a massive book of battle like a whole battle. It's little skirmishes that are leading up to the big battle, and the big battle was intense. It was told from multiple point of views. You are not really sure at what point who's winning and who's losing. You're spending your time reading this book like at one point you're like, oh, this character, their side's winning, but then the other side will do something, and you're like, no, don't do that. And it was incredible. It was epic upon epic. And the ending was just, I adored the ending. As much as I cried, I loved the last chapter. It was probably one of my favorites. It's one of those ones, like in Harry Potter, right? You get to the end of Deathly Hallows, and all of this, all of those books, going all of those journeys with the characters comes to an end, and you don't want it to end, but it ends on such a good note. Not necessarily as everything is tied neat into a bow, but showing that there is something going to happen after this. Their story isn't done, but your story with them is. And the wholesomeness that comes together after everything they'd been through was just phenomenal. And I loved every second of this book. I think everybody should read John Gwynne. I would recommend you start with Shadow of the Gods, because it is his more polished work compared to his other series. But The Faithful and the Fallen, again, is epic. It's amazing. There's battle scenes. There's everything that you want and more. And if you're reading this and wanting more, Faith No Fallen is out there. It's incredible. It's amazing, and I cannot wait for everybody to read it. And I'm so glad I got approved for this arc because it is just in fucking incredible. I cannot stress that enough, and I've tried to stay as far away as I can from most spoilers. There might be some slight little things, but if you've read the other series, other two books, you will be fine. I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. Once you read it, please comment down below. I would love to have a discussion about this book because it's one of my favorites. It will live with me for fucking ever. I just love it. So on that note, please go pick up Fear of the Gods when it comes out, and happy fucking reading.